Hey everyone, it's Sherry Carroll for SimonsStamp.com, and I'm here to share today's STAMPtember collaboration with Brutus Monroe. The exclusive stamp set from Brutus Monroe is a 6x8 and it features some really fun cupcake toppers and also a base. So you have a plain frosting topper, an autumn themed, a Christmas theme, and then a really fun Halloween theme. There's also some small elements that you can add in between and some messages to complete your cards. I'll be starting my card off with the cupcake base and also the frosting layer for the cupcake top. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different this time, and I'll be stamping these in some light inks. So I'll have flannel for the top and fawn for the bottom. I'll be stamping these onto a panel of Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock, and I'm using the smooth side and also my Misty. By using these lighter colors, I'll be able to do a no-line watercoloring without any heavy black lines. I'm using my set of watercolors, and I do like to spray these down a little bit with some water, and that softens up the paint. If you don't have a set of watercolors, you can also use the Tim Holtz watercolor pencils and create a palette for yourself. So I'm going to start off by adding just a little bit of a wash of brown paint onto the cupcake base. I'm using a number 2 and 4 paintbrush for all of my painting so I can get into the small detailed areas. Once I have my wash complete, I'm going to go back in and recreate some of the lines with a little bit more concentrated paint so I can add some dimension and depth to the cupcake. Once my base was done, I went in with some purple to start on the cupcake topper, and I'm using a really concentrated amount of paint, and I'm going to paint right onto the lines and outline everything, and then I'm going to go back in with a little bit more water and I can start to smooth everything out. I've continued coloring in my purple and I've left room to add some green, and I'll be doing a background with Simon Says Stamp Violet and Perfection inks, and I'm just going to add a little bit of color to the top so that I can make sure that my colors are connecting and will look well together. For the green, I'm starting off with a couple colors, and I'll be mixing these together until they look like the Perfection ink that I'll be using. And again, just like the purple, I'll be outlining on the lines of the stamped image, and then I can go in with a little bit of water and maybe a little bit more watered down paint and fill in the spaces. And here's how this looks up close. Since I'll be stacking these together, I'm going to fussy cut around the images, and it's really easy. I'm just using my Simon Says Stamp detail scissors, and I like to get rid of a lot of the excess paper that's around the image first. And then I can cut in real close, and it's really easy with these scissors to get all that detail and to get rounded corners. Since I have cut in close to the image, I do want to edge the paper using some Woodsy ink from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm going to be coloring on the back side. So I'm just going to use my smaller blending brush, and I can just ink that right up to the edge, and this won't disturb the image that's underneath. Now that my cupcake is finished up, I'm going to be creating my background, and I'm using the A2 Scalloped Stencils and also my stamp and stencil mat. I'm using violet ink and Perfection, and I'll be starting some blending from the top using the violet ink. So I'm going to get in there, tap it off onto my glass mat, and start blending that color in. I typically start really light-handed, and as I go, I start to add a little bit more deeper color by pressing into that ink pad and picking up more ink. I've colored a little less than halfway with that violet ink, and now I'm going in with the Perfection, and I'm going to have a mid-tone in between that's going to create a brown. So I'm going to be going back in and darkening this area as much as possible. And then I can return to the violet ink and start blending in that transition between the two. With my stencil still in place, I'm using a large paintbrush, and I'm just using that water that I've already colored with my watercolors, and I'm tapping onto the panel to create some big blops and splatters. And to lift some of the color and to allow this to dry quicker, I'll just pat this down with a paper towel. I've put my entire stamp and stencil mat into my MISTI, and I'm going to be stamping my greeting just to the bottom, and I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. This is the perfect ink. It's waterproof, and it'll go really well over the background. So I'm going to pat this with the ink. Then I can close the door and start to press the image into the paper. And now my message is centered onto the inside stenciling, and I can pull out my stamp and stencil mat. I'll be working on the mat until I complete the entire piece, so I will be putting the cupcake right on top, and I've placed some foam squares behind, so this will lift this up from the paper. I can just remove that backing and stick this down in place. For the cupcake top, I've used some of the small squares in a single layer, and I'll undo those. Those are going to sit on top of the cupcake base. And then on the rest of the top, I have doubled up those foam squares. And now I can stick this down in place. So my frosting layer will sit up a little bit from the base, so it gives it a little extra dimension. To remove my panel from the stamp and stencil mat, I can curl that behind, and I can pull away on my panel until it releases. To finish this card off, I've stamped the little eyeballs and also the sucker, and I've added those to the cupcake with a black twine bow, and then I've put the panel on top of a black note card. I hope you've enjoyed my purple and green cupcake card. It almost looks like a little monster holding a sucker. If you like this Brutus Monroe stamp set, be sure to grab it by following the link below. Remember, it's only available while supplies last. And check out our blog for additional inspiration. Happy STAMPtember, and thanks so much for watching.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.